On Larry King Now, sleep. Our panel of experts weighs in on why Americans aren't getting enough of it.
People aren't relaxing and learning how to find that quiet space in their lives anymore. You know, we live in an age now of technology, and people are very connected to their cell phones, they're very connected to their computers.
Talks the life-threatening side effects of extreme fatigue.
In America, do we have diabetes? Do we have hypertension? Do we have cardiovascular disease? That's all related to sleep.
Explains innovative ways to maximize your sleep potential.
I think a lot of people, we've been talking about mindfulness, and meditation is simply the formal kind of exercise where you learn how to be more mindful in life.
And discusses how sleep can help cure disorders like depression and addiction.
Sleep is a treatment for most psychological and health-related issues, really. More sleep is really good medicine for the body and for the mind.
Plus,
there is a misnomer that all we do here is sleep apnea. And you know what? That is just a tip of the iceberg. We see narcolepsy, we see insomnia, we see parasomnias, and I'm very proud to say we treat acute diseases and chronic diseases the best we can with up-to-date information and technology.
All next on Larry King Now. Welcome to Larry King Now. In September of 2015, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention named insufficient sleep a public health problem, with roughly 60 million Americans suffering from sleep or wakefulness disorders. Sleeplessness in America is also a leading factor in motor vehicle and on-the-job accidents, with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration estimating that roughly 100,000 police-reported crashes resulting in 1,500 deaths, 71,000 injuries, and $12.5 billion in damage a year are directly linked to driver fatigue. Additionally, the American Insomnia Survey, in conjunction with the World Health Organization, reports that almost $63 billion a year are lost in business productivity due to lack of sleep. Joining us now to discuss these topics and some surrounding sleep health issues are Dr. Raj Das Gupta, a quadruple board certified physician in internal pulmonary critical care and sleep medicine. He's an associate professor of sleep medicine and the assistant program director for internal medicine at USC's Keck Medical Center. Dr. Carter Stout is a depth psychotherapist specializing in dreams, relationships, and addictions. His new book, Get Off the Couch, A Therapist's Guide to Solving Your Own Problems, is due out next year. And last but not least, Andy Puddicombe, a meditation and mindfulness expert, is known for creating Headspace, the health platform that provides mindfulness training and meditation sessions. We thank you all for coming. Dr. Raj, why has it taken so long for sleep health to become a priority?
Well, that's a great question, Larry. Number one, let me just add on to what you're saying, is that when we talk about sleep deprivation in America, it's like you want to have a badge of courage because you're sleep deprived. What are some of the phrases that we've been raised upon? You know what? I can sleep when I'm dead. You know what else? The early bird gets the worm. And the one for the year 2015 I kind of like, sleep is a poor substitute for caffeine. So when we have these phrases that are the foundation of society, what do you expect? Sleep is as important as eating and drinking. And when we talk about sleep, it's involved with cognition, behaviors, it's involved in just good functioning. And if you want to be healthy during the day, you need to start focusing it at night.
Why is sleep important?
Well, number one, it's important because it helps consolidate memories. It's helpful for our immune system. And people don't realize that when we talk about insomnia, it's not just about a lack of sleep. Studies have shown that, if we give vaccines like the flu vaccine, like hepatitis A, we give them to patients who have been sleep deprived versus people who've got that 8 hours, that 7 hours, and it doesn't take as well. And how many times have you had a lack of sleep, you're jet lagged, and you get that cold? So it's going to be based upon your mood. It's going to be based upon your immune system. And I'll tell you one more thing, whether we're talking about insomnia, whether we're talking about sleep apnea, in America, do we have diabetes? Do we have hypertension? Do we have cardiovascular disease? That's all related to sleep.
Dr. Stout, what about people who say, I don't need more than 5 hours?
Well, I think there are those people, certainly, but There are studies that prove that really the optimal amount of sleep is 7.5 to 9 hours a night. And people who believe that they can operate on 5 hours really aren't letting their body rest the way it's supposed to be resting. And that can lead to lack of ability to concentrate. It can lead to anxiety, depressive disorders. It can lead to a compromised immune system, as we said.
Do we need less sleep the older we get?
Actually, that is usually older people tend to go to bed earlier and wake up earlier.
Andy, how did you become a mindfulness expert?
Yeah, I was I have a slightly different CV, I guess, to these guys. I was a former monk. I was a Buddhist monk in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition for many years. I left university. I quit my university halfway through when I was about 22, and went off to the Himalayas and became a monk. And went back to the UK about 10 years ago. Started working with some doctors. I was very fortunate. I came back at a time just as in the UK we have the National Institute of Clinical Excellence that kind of approves the use of different interventions. And they just approved mindfulness, particularly for the relapse of depression. The problem was there was no one around who really kind of knew what mindfulness was, and there was no one to kind of use it. So I was brought into a medical practice, and I started working alongside some doctors. Cases of depression, anxiety, a lot of kind of anger management type stuff, but also insomnia.
So do you agree or disagree with what's been said so far?
I would agree. I think it's an environmental kind of thing. I think, look, if you're away in a monastery, locked away, the body and mind are working in a very different way than they are when we're living in a busy city with families and jobs and cell phone communications and everything else. I think for most people, kind of 7-8 hours sleep a night is probably what's required. But I think there's more we can do. I don't think it's just about getting enough sleep. I think it's more about how can we rest the mind, and sleep is just one way.
Dr. Stout, is sleep a treatment for depression or addiction?
It certainly can be. Absolutely. I mean, I think sleep is a treatment for most psychological and health-related issues, really. More sleep is really good medicine for the body and for the mind.
Andy, how do you define mindfulness?
So I think that there's different ways of defining it. My understanding from training as a monk is being present in the moment. So normally we're caught up either thinking about the past or planning for the future. So the ability to step out of distraction and instead to be present in the here and now with an open mind, that's mindfulness.
After the break, how to get the most out of a night's rest. Plus, Dr. Raj takes us inside USC's newly minted Sleep Disorders Center. Stay with us.
So right now, we're putting in what we call one of our home sleep studies. This has been a huge innovation when we talk about sleep medicine. Why? In the olden days, if you wanted to get a sleep study, the word was called polysomnography, meaning many measurements. We would put EEG leads, heart leads, would measure the pulse ox, and you'd need to come to a sleep facility as this. And while you sleep, you'll be watched by Big Brother over a camera. But now, what do we have? It's called home sleep testing. This has given many patients the opportunity to be diagnosed and sleep in their own bed.
And that study is made while they're sleeping, right?
You got it.
Is that sleep apnea?
Yes, it is. So it behooves me to mention that 15 million Americans have obstructive sleep apnea. And it may not be the most common reason why people see me. Number one sleep disorder in the world is going to be insomnia. But if you're going to talk about the cardiovascular things, the consequences, the diabetes, the hypertension, you got to address sleep apnea. And we're finally in a day and age where, like I said in the clip, if you wanted to have a polysomnography, you got to go to a sleep center. I put EEG leads, I put an EKG, I'll put a pulse ox, but now we're bringing the diagnosis to the patient. We have home sleep studies, and we could actually treat them in their home too.
Dr. Stout, what disrupts healthy sleep the most?
Well, I think, we live in an age now of technology. And people are very connected to their cell phones, they're very connected to their computers, there's a rush about life. And
people stay up more with their phones, right?
Well, people stay up more, people aren't relaxing and learning how to find that quiet space in their lives anymore because technology has moved and communication is moving so fast. So people don't really know how to unplug and decharge. And that goes to finding the rhythm of getting healthy sleep as well. So
you treat individual patients?
I do. I treat individual patients, and the thing that I have patients that come in and say, I'm not sleeping well. I can't find sleep, and what I recommend to them really is to try and find a way to be quiet in their life. I think there are a lot of aspects that contribute to healthy sleep. Diet certainly is one of them. Are they eating too much sugar? Do they have caffeine in their life? Are they exercising? Are they allowing themselves time to relax at night? And do they have some kind of, if they're having a sleep disorder and not being able to fall asleep, do they have, some kind of pattern that they can establish at nighttime before they go to sleep?
Do you treat people, Andy?
Yeah, I did for a number of years.
What do you do now?
Here in LA, not so much. I'm running, well, not running. We have experts who come in and run the team, but we have a team of about 80 people who've built out an app that's now, I think it's used by about 4 million people around the world.
An app?
Called Headspace, yeah.
And what do I get on the app?
So yeah, first of all, you learn how to meditate. I think a lot of people, we've been talking about mindfulness, and meditation is simply the formal kind of exercise where you learn how to be more mindful in life. I think most people kind of think it's about one, they might think it's a bit mystical, something a bit strange. It's not, it's for everyone. Some people might think it's about clearing the mind, and if you sit down with the intention to try and do it through will, then that's going to be really frustrating. So we try and go about teaching people how to find that restful place. I think, I was just going to, when you were speaking just now, I thought it was really interesting. A lot of people come along and they say they really panic at night time. They lie down on their pillow and all of a sudden, all these thoughts come into their mind as though suddenly they've arisen. And actually they've not. It's just that we're so busy during our everyday life, we're always distracted. And so this is the first time in the day where we've really become aware of just how many thoughts are in the mind.
What about drugs? What about Ambien?
Well, let me say two things first. It's funny you mentioned about the cell phones, because we do agree. You want to actually transition to sleep, put the cell phones away, put the TV away. Number one, because the light that it emits, it suppresses melatonin. But it's ironic that now we have apps on the phone that you're supposed to sleep with the phone underneath the bed, tells you what stage of sleep you're in, tells you how long you sleep to help you out. So it's making it tough when it comes to those cell phones to put them away. But back to drugs, number one, if we're talking about sleep disorders, talking about insomnia, I think any sleep doctor worth their salt will say cognitive behavioral therapy, the way you think, your actions, are definitely going to be the cornerstone of insomnia. And now we have studies that show that behavioral therapy, cognitive therapy, acutely works out. So no person should be on medications lifelong. I do want to encourage to take them off of it, and there are many side effects you got to know about. Well, when we talk about Ambien itself, I'm also a pulmonologist, and I see diseases like COPD, which is emphysema, asthma, and if you have lung disease and you're sleeping at night, is that the patient you want to be on Ambien? Sonata, Lunesta, depressing that respiratory drive? I don't think so. Doctor, know that you're on it.
I was going to say, I also feel that Ambien, Lunesta, they can create psychological addiction, which people start taking it for a while, and then they believe and come to believe that they can't fall asleep without it. And so getting them off it is very difficult because they have this fear, this built-in fear that I'm never going to be able to sleep again without this substance.
But when you're talking about those drugs also, because they kind of belong to the category called benzodiazepines, you just can't cold turkey. And that's rule number one. If you stop it, you're going to rebound. So many patients don't know they need to taper off of it.
Yes.
Google, I'm told, supplies napping pods for their employees. They claim it increases productivity. Do you all like naps?
No, Larry. That's a very spicy thing to say.
You don't like naps?
If you have insomnia, the worst thing you can do is napping. Why? It takes away your drive to sleep at night. But if we're talking about being sleep deprived, we're talking about a disease called narcolepsy, nap all you want, I'll write you a letter.
Google also all use Headspace as well. So I think actually there's been a move away from that idea of napping, and those pods, they still have those pods in their rec rooms. But they actually now encourage their employees to take time out rather than actually going to sleep, kind of refreshing the mind instead.
Up next, we're covering dream analysis, known to be one of the most debated topics in sleep research. Plus, Dr. Stout reads my producer's dreams. You're not going to miss this. As with the earlier clip we showed you and the one we're going to show you now, you can see the full segment on Aura TV on our Larry King Now blog. What we're going to show you now is we recently sent our producer, Serena Brainey, to have her dreams analyzed by Dr. Stout. Let's take a look at what happened.
I had a dream recently where I was being chased by people who were trying to kill me. It was incredibly vivid. It stuck with me for days. I couldn't really escape the feeling that someone was after me. And I just remember that they were masked and my boyfriend was in it, and we were both trying to get away from them, and they had very serious guns, and then at some point we had very serious guns, and we were running through a forest.
If you're a woman and you're dreaming about a male figure who you are connected to, maybe romantically, have this sense that there is, some sort of relationship, it's representative of dreaming about your soul. We're dreaming about some aspect of our personality. So I believe that we have the soul and we also have the shadow side of our personality. And in the shadow side of our personality are all of the things that we repress and all of the things that we are not proud of. Maybe secrets that we have, maybe habits that we have, tendencies that we have. And those, when we're being chased by something in a dream, it's usually one of those elements that is re-emerging in our life, that is giving us problems. And so we're dreaming about that.
By the way, you can see that in the earlier clip with Dr. Raj on our Larry King Now blog. A dream's important.
Dreams are very important. Psychologist Carl Jung, over his lifetime, analyzed 20,000 dreams. And he not only believed that they were important, but the most important way to look at why a person was behaving the way they were behaving, why they were having symptoms that they were having, because it's a look into the unconscious part of a person. And we don't really have a way to look into the unconscious when we're awake, when we're having access to our
consciousness. Is this widely debated? Aren't there some people who believe dreams are not important?
Well, I would say two things. Number one, I don't focus on the analysis of dreams, but the purpose. There is a science behind that. When we talk about dreams, we're talking about what we call the limbic system, talking about the amygdala and talking about the hippocampus. Hippocampus, very important when we talk about memory. Number one thing that goes wrong in Alzheimer's disease. So it's very important that you get into REM sleep. And that's where we had those vivid HD TV-like dreams. But let me say a misnomer. People only think you dream in REM sleep. You actually dream in all stages of sleep. And what's very odd is that when you ask someone, hey, tell me about your dreams, did you know, Larry, that you only remember 5 or 10% of your dreams at night? That's why you can summarize everything in 1 minute. So there is a purpose behind it. It helps consolidate memory, helps you function better today. You need to get to that REM sleep.
You believe it, Andy?
Yeah, I think there's something really interesting. I think at night time we don't have that filter on that we have throughout the day, and so the dreams become increasingly kind of strange at times. But it's interesting, when you practice mindfulness, you actually start to uncover that filter anyway, and you start to kind of become more aware of that subconscious mindset. So I would suggest that actually through the practice of mindfulness, we can actually start to experience more of that during our waking time as well, which I think is important because we do release a certain amount of kind of emotional tension through that process.
Dr. Stout, does everybody dream?
Most people do dream, yes. What I want to speak of a little bit is that when we dream when we're children and we have a bad dream, a nightmare, and we go into our parents' room or our parents soothe us and they say, don't worry about it, it's just a dream, it's not important. So there's this message that we receive from a very young age that our dreams aren't important. And we carry that into our adulthood. And so most people do dream, but most people can't remember their dreams when they wake up.
But it's very important to realize that there are medications that suppress REM sleep. So we talk about SSRIs, TCAs, MAOIs, many of the antidepressants. You may not get REM sleep. Especially if you have diseases like sleep apnea, you're not going into the deeper stages of sleep. You're not being refreshed because you're having hyperarousability. And finally you treat the sleep deprivation to get REM rebound right away. So it's very important to realize that. But I also want to say that when we talk about dreams, if you were to analyze the brainwave patterns of REM sleep dreams, they look exactly like you're awake. There's almost no difference. It's very hard to realize that. And the way our bodies, it's so unique. When we have REM state dreams, nightmares, that we're not allowed to move our body. We're paralyzed. But there are disorders as we get older. When people reenact their dreams, they lose that ability to actually be paralyzed, and that could be something that could be very detrimental. So it's very important to ask about dreams when you talk about your sleep patients.
Right.
Why do you go berserk after long flights?
I don't know. I haven't experienced that myself, though. But
usually it's flying. Going west. Okay going west.
Yeah.
Going east, no problem. Coming
back the other way. Actually, it is difficult. I'm sure these guys have a lot more information specifically around the physiological reasons for that. For me, genuinely, like, if you have a coping mechanism where when you, almost a ritual if you like, kind of when you leave and when you arrive, it's really, you can catch up very, very quickly actually. A lot of the mental energy goes into thinking, oh no, am I going to be able to go to sleep? There's a lot of thinking about sleep rather than simply doing it, you know? And so I think if we can have, as I say, some kind of tool, some kind of mechanism to let go of that, we'll catch up much quicker.
And Larry, I have to correct yourself. It's not traveling to east that's easier, it's traveling west. Because when you travel west, you could actually stay up later to catch up with your time. So West Coast traveling is a lot easier than East Coast traveling.
But
I find it the other way.
That's fine, guys. You can go the other way you want, but...
I go to Europe, I have a problem when I come back.
Yeah, me too.
It's really about learning how to quiet the mind, Larry.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
You know?
Quiet the mind.
Quiet the mind, quieting the mind. And you know, Andy's app, Headspace, is a great way to do that. There's certainly other psychological techniques as well. So.
Remember, you can see more of Dr. Stout's dream analysis of Serena from earlier on our Larry King Now blog, exclusively on Aura TV. You can also see Dr. Raj as well. In our final moments, our experts will take your questions. Don't click away. We're back with Dr. Raj Dasgupta, with Dr. Carter Stout, and Andy Puddicombe. We're discussing sleep. We have some social media questions. At Buffs Vega on Twitter, is catching up on sleep on the weekends a healthy thing to do?
We're going to talk about sleep debt. And the way we are in America is that every hour of sleep that's lost, it builds up. So you build up 1 hour on Monday, 1 hour on Tuesday, so forth and so on. So by the time the weekend comes, there's no way you're going to catch up with 7 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep. People do it. The next thing you know, Sunday night hits, and you have this vicious cycle that goes over and over again.
Is it bad to oversleep?
To get too much sleep?
Yeah.
It can certainly make you groggy the next day,
Like,
certainly.
if you get 10 hours.
Right. Depends on how much sleep you really need. It really does. But, you know, sleeping a little extra when we're children, when we're growing up, 10 hours of sleep is actually the right amount of sleep for us to get.
And it's interesting, right? It's maybe not how long the sleep is as well. It's how rested we feel when we wake up. Because I know people who kind of sleep for 12 hours a night and they swear by it, and yet they wake up feeling exhausted every morning.
And let me also say this, Larry, when we talk about napping, because many people nap in the United States all over the world. How long should a nap be, everyone? Tell me. 20 to 30 minutes. How many times have you woke up from a nap and you felt more tired than you did before you napped to begin with?
That happens sometimes.
You know why? You want to wake up during the lighter stages of sleep, and that's why 20 to 30 minutes. Answer for the...
Okay. Joe Meekum, I know how you get disturbed sleep. You wake people up.
Gotta cut out the caffeine.
Joe Meekum on the Larry King Now blog asks Andy, what's next for Headspace?
The thing I'm most excited about is Headspace for Kids, which launches next spring. So ever since we launched a few years back, we've had parents kind of writing in saying, you know, when's it going to happen? We recently completed a pilot study in schools in LA and Seattle. Some fantastic results, kids aged 7 to 9. So we're going to have Headspace for Kids available both in school and out from the ages of 4 to 12 years old.
Great. At KJM1016 on Twitter, why do I always have trouble falling asleep on Sunday nights? Is that common?
Anxiety. Anxiety about the week to come. Yeah, certainly.
John Crabtree on Facebook, Dr. Stout, I rarely have dreams. Is that unhealthy?
Well, it just means that you're not connecting to that place where you're in your dream space. And that can be because you are overloaded with the conscious aspects of your life that are taking over.
Drew B. on the Larry King Now blog, we all seem addicted to our devices. How do they affect sleep health? What advice do you have for an addicted phone user?
I would say this, when you talk about your devices, whether it's an iPad, a Surface Pro, you want to put those away. You want to transition into sleep, like we mentioned earlier, the light from that. And also, it's going to be very stimulating. Before I want to go to bed every night, you know what's on TV? SportsCenter. Top 10 plays of the day. You know what? I stay up another 10 minutes. So you definitely want to stay away from media, and it makes a difference what you're watching at night. Worst thing to watch at night is always going to be the news.
I like to read.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's what I would recommend. I would say, you know, move away from the screen and move into the old traditional book.
It's really interesting.
That's right.
That could be stimulating too.
Yeah.
That's true.
Drew B. on the Larry King Now blog, I have restless leg syndrome.
Right.
The ways to combat this, what is that?
Restless leg syndrome is not a sleep disorder. It's difficulty initiating sleep. You have an uncomfortable sensation in the lower extremities, mainly at night. There are many secondary disorders that can cause it, iron deficiency anemia, kidney issues, but there are many drugs out there, and also check if you're iron deficient.
Doug Gallagher on the Larry King Now blog. My dreams are wicked when I use melatonin. Why?
Interesting. There usually isn't a correspondence.
Isn't melatonin in your body already?
It's a natural hormone.
Yes, exactly. I would say that your dreams are probably wicked because of some kind of disturbance that you're having, and you may be blaming it on the melatonin.
Justin Hare on the Larry King Now blog. Do you promote any sleep aid apps for your phone? Do you find any that are effective?
Well, I'm obviously a little bit biased, but if you go into the Headspace app and you go into the health section, you'll find a 30-day program specifically for sleep, designed to help you not only get to sleep a little bit quicker, but also to stay asleep and have a restful night's sleep. As I say, I think more often than not, that the idea kind of persists that the longer the better. It's not. It's about how can we have a restful night's sleep.
Do we know the cause of insomnia?
No, we don't. We know that there's many different things we think about. There's genetics. So we have to know family members have it. There could be adjustment insomnia where you go through something life-changing, a marriage, a divorce, major surgery. And we also know there's what's called psychophysiologic insomnia where there's an inciting event, then you do things that make the insomnia worse. It perpetuates it, such as the classic is, Dr. Raj, I need that glass of alcohol before going to bed. Well, you know what? You're right. It knocks you out, but it causes multiple awakenings. Then, despite wearing a pulmonary T-shirt, people tell me, Raj, I need to get that cigarette before going to bed. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Nicotine is a what? A stimulant. So, and definitely there's many things going there, clock watching. So the answer is, we don't know what it is. You need to categorize it appropriately. Is it acute? Is it chronic? Is it transient? And there are many treatments out there.
I think you got to take it case by case because somebody who is worrying a lot, has an anxiety disorder, or somebody who might be depressed about something, somebody is having some sort of factor in their life.
Some people have nights where they never go to sleep.
Yeah,
that's right.
They really do.
Yeah.
This has been very important. I thank you all very much.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank
Big
you.
thanks to my
Thanks so
guests,
much,
Dr.
Larry.
Raj Dasgupta, Dr. Carter Stout, and Andy Puddicombe. Be sure to tune in to the Larry King Now blog on Aura TV to see behind-the-scenes footage at USC Sleep Center, as well as Dr. Stout's full dream analysis of our producer, Serena. As always, you can find me on Twitter at King's Things. I'll see you next time.